Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extra.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the Bison Media Zone. We do it each and every Wednesday at 10:35 here on WDAY Extra. Sam Goetzinger joining us before he hits the road for Bismarck and State Volleyball, then comes back for Bison football on Saturday as North Dakota State wraps up the regular season with the University of St. Thomas. We'll get to the Tommies in a minute, but the Bison have wrapped up the Missouri Valley Conference unbeaten, 11-0. Now one left on the check mark, at least for the regular season, and that's to try and go undefeated.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about that. It hasn't been done since 2019. It's a really impressive group. They get the conference schedule unbeaten. They get that out of the way. They win the conference championship outright. You knock off your two goals there. Now you got goal 3, if you will, to finish the regular season unbeaten. Then you go into the postseason. It's been a pretty good year.
Well, I look at it in terms of how they did this difficulty-wise, and Polisic brought this up yesterday when I wrote about it on Sunday, that in terms of they had to go on the road to Illinois State, they had to go on the road to Brookings, they had to go on the road to Grand Forks. That's about as difficult as it get road schedule, and they won all 3 of those games.
Yeah, no, I think the conference schedule was really impressive this year. The non-conference games, I mean, take those for what you will. I mean, Grant is still going halfway across the country twice with over. Its own challenges, but no, I think you nailed it on the head. Youngstown's a good team. South Dakota State, granted, they weren't what we thought they were going to be, but just playing in that environment causes some challenges. Illinois State put together a really good run. SIU, when they came to Fargo, they were on fire at that point.
Look at South Dakota. We thought they were broke when they left Fargo, and they wound up winning 8 games.
Like we said on Bison Game Day, subtle signs of wagonism from South Dakota lately. They've been a pretty impressive team.
You're going to see it on Saturday during the kickoff show as the Bison will honor their 16 seniors. And this isn't the biggest class like last year. You had the heavy hitters there, whether it be Cam Miller, whether it be Gray Zabel, the Mostart twins. You could go on and on. But very subtly, this class, and we were visiting with Jackson Dutenheffer about this yesterday, is awfully impressive. Cole Payton and Bryce Lance are going to get 10 of the headlines. Raja Nelson isn't supposed to be part of this class, but he is. Dutenheffer, Logan Kopp. You can go down the line here, Sam. These are foundation of what this team has become. And I really thought Dutenheffer had some interesting comments about he was talking to you about yesterday.
Yeah, it's just funny to see how things have gone. There's been a couple of guys that have left this class over the years, and the ones that have stayed are just really special. And we've heard Coach Polisic mention it, that they don't flinch on graduation day. Well, it's going to be hard because this group of people it's just a stand-up group of people. You take them away from the football field, these are great guys, and what a career that they have put together. And Jackson Dutenheffer, Logan Kopp, what they've done off the field is really impressive. Barika Penu being a local guy as well. And then you see Bryce Lance and Cole Payton have quickly become in the conversation of, I don't know, is it too far to say some of the top Bison of recent memory, if you will?
Bryce Lance, no. Cole has got to finish it off, I think, to be in that conversation, I would say. But
no, I would agree. This is a really, really impressive group of people on and off the field, and that's part of the excitement about this game. The game is what it is, but the fact that they can wrap up the regular season unbeaten, and then they're going to honor the 16 guys on the senior day festivities prior to the game, that's what it's about.
I look at this class also came in, and Dutenheffer talked about it yesterday, that we're not considered the most successful class. They came in as redshirt freshmen. The Bison won the championship in 21, but obviously 22 they didn't win it. 23 they lost, and Jackson mentioned this. They lost all 3 games to the Dakota schools. That they're not going to be remembered as the all-time winningest class, like something that the Kyle Emanuel, Christian Dudzik have to that. But there's something to it that Polisic came in. They won last year, and here they've had the distinction of an unbeaten regular season potentially on that. That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. If you want to call that a turnaround, if you will, I mean, you can. They run through the Dakota schools this season. It's been a really good group, and to see that they're doing this in their final year, setting themselves up for a good position in the postseason. Like you said, it's a really impressive group.
And there's a couple other guys. Finn Diggins, who we've talked about. I know you interviewed as well, who's going to be back. He'll walk on Saturday. He's potentially looking like he's going to play in that first-round game the first week of December, which is remarkable considering I know you were there next to him on the sideline. He thought his career was done.
You could see the emotion then when his parents came down after the injury happened. And he told us when we talked to him yesterday, the emotion throughout the journey, knowing that they told him, okay, you're going to need surgery. And then he says, well, wait a minute, that I'm a senior. I want to get back on the field here for my final year. And that kind of changed the timeline on things. And then they eventually do get the surgery done, and hope the best for Finn, because he's really putting together a strong year. Or the games that he did play, he made an impact at that tight end position.
Anthony Shadimi Alfaro obviously transferred in from Cornell, but boy, he's been huge. Jack Giuliano, the other Ivy League transfer that came in from Penn. Here's a couple guys I know you've done stories on to maybe reflect a little bit more. Chris Harris, who has gone through everything from being a walk-on from El Paso, Texas, to now a team captain and a trusted confidant for Cole Payton over the last couple of years. Oh,
absolutely. And we did the story on him and the connection that he has with his mom. His mom spending time in the military and hadn't been able to be there to see most of his football career, and then finally had the opportunity to make it to games last year and this year. And Chris is another one of those guys that falls right into the category of just a stand-up dude and burst onto the scene, like you mentioned a little bit last year. And now he's a captain on this team and still producing on offense. And also Anthony Shademi Alfaro, we did the story on him last week on Bison Game Day, just the journey that football has taken him on from West Coast to East Coast and now to North Dakota and just about everywhere in between during the seasons. And he's another guy. He's super smart and he's really well spoken, and he's putting together some really good stretches. He got a knack for the big play, a couple of big interceptions in his career, forced fumble in there earlier in the season to seal a game. So another guy on and off field, great guy.
Two other guys I want to mention before we move on. Owen Johnson is another that's going to be moving into the strength and performance program, who obviously missed 18 months from a really tough injury. I know you spoke with him as well, of him getting back on the field, and to see him running around like he did last Saturday, I thought that the sidelines went nuts on that. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, he went and got a little screen pass and almost motored in for a touchdown. It seems like that knee was doing just fine then. But I talked to him at the beginning of the year, just kind of what he remembers from that UND game in 23 when they were up in Grand Forks and the injury happened, and then having to sit out. It's a tough time whenever you have to deal with an injury. And yes, there was conversations that they didn't know if Owen was going to play again. And then to handle the recovery process the way that he did, and to be able to see the field, I think it's great that he's going to stick around the team and join that strength program, and just another part of the Bison connection, a Bison guy that's going to stick around and help the team in the future.
One other guy, Ryan Jones, should be mentioned. Obviously, what he did at the end of last year, the South Dakota State game and the Montana State game will be lived forever for him, because he was tremendous in both of these games. For a guy that just waited his time to get on the field, and maybe looked overwhelmed when he first got out there, and then obviously didn't play well enough that he got removed from the starting lineup at the start of last year. He's become a trusted member on the safety group.
He really played his best football the last couple of games of the year. Got to give him credit for that, because it was. You're right. There was times last year it was, oh man, what do we do? And that safety group, there was a lot of injuries last year, so you had to go with Ryan Jones, and he has really, really stepped up. We haven't talked about him a lot this year, and I think maybe that's a good thing. If we're not talking about guys, that's a pretty good thing. That means you're not making too many glaring mistakes.
All right, so it's the University of St. Thomas out of the Pioneer Football League. This is their first year of Division I playoff eligibility. They actually had a chance, Sam, last week to win the PFL. They lost to Presbyterian at home, so their postseason hopes are over at 7-4. I'm really interested to see what this program does, not necessarily Saturday, but moving forward with Glenn Caruso. We know how many times they won the MIAC. Heck, they were so good the MIAC said, get out. We know they put all their eggs in the basketball basket, certainly, but football should not be taken lightly, I think. But I think they found out how good the football is in the Pioneer Football League this year.
Right. It's better than they probably thought. And to go back on what you were saying about their competition in the MIAC, them and St. John's, there was a long stretch that those two were phenomenal teams. Now, with St. Thomas, I don't know if they'll ever pour in the resources that they will to basketball and hockey, building the new facility, spending a lot of time on recruiting in the area there. I don't know if they're going to get to that point. I think their bread and butter especially falls with basketball for sure, but this is a team that won 6 straight games throughout the year. They played Idaho close at one point as well, and just to see the growth that they've had, we're not far removed from when they were a Division III football team to now when they're a Division I football team. Do you say trap game by chance? Is that a possibility
I don't think so here. Because at Pioneer Football League teams, there's a definite talent disparity there that we've seen, whether it be Drake, whether it be Butler, Valpo, the teams that Bison fans are familiar that have seen over recent years. I will say, though, like when San Diego came in here out of that same league and they won a playoff game, those were good teams. I think Caruso can get to that mark here maybe in the next couple of years once they get it humming. I think they can get to where they can win a first-round playoff game.
I would agree with you. And Drake has shown over the last couple of years that they're a formidable opponent, especially when it comes to postseason time. Presbyterian seems like they're kind of on the up and up as of late. I think
St. Thomas beat Drake in Des Moines a couple of weeks ago. That's what got everybody's attention on that. But you talk about travel here, Sam. They went Moscow, Idaho, they played in. They played in San Diego this year. They played in North Carolina this year. They played in Florida. They've been all over the place now at the end of the year in North Dakota.
Yeah, that's what a treat that is to
end the year. Far-flung league on that.
That's going to be tough. I think it's good for them if you want to see it where you're at, in your short tenure Division I football team. You got to play the best, and that's what they're doing here against North Dakota State. Is it going to be pretty? I guess we'll find out on Saturday. But in the future, yes, they can be a force in the Pioneer.
All right, we're going to break here. We come back. Other side, we'll talk some hoops. Bison men have a game tonight against Jamestown and a look ahead of the final week of the regular season. Bison Media Zone coming back on WDAY Extra right after this. Welcome back, everybody. You're seeing highlights from the Bison men victory over Southern Illinois on Monday night. North Dakota State won for the third straight time. No rest for the weary. Sam, they've got a game tonight against the University of Jamestown. This was a fabulous game, and something's flipped, I think, in the second half against CSUN to what we've seen now over the last 2+ games, because the Bison have been shooting it over the last couple games.
Well, I remember, I think everybody that was at the Shack for the CSUN game in the first half thought the sky was falling. They were
their eyes were bleeding.
Yeah, they were about 0 for 35 from 3, just nothing was clicking. And then they come out in the second half, and it was just an all-world performance. They went on to win that game. It's St. Scholastica D3, but the ball still got to go in the net, and they were taking good looks. They were making the shots, and then SIU comes into town, and what a game. And it's never easy against a Missouri Valley basketball team, and SIU has proven they can play with some top dogs. They had a really close game recently against Nevada, which is up there with some of the bigger schools at the Division I level. And they came out, the offense is great. And what I find really interesting about this men's basketball team is that their defense is right on par there, too. And it's exciting to watch.
Markai Strickland, the amount of steals he got just to play on the top of that zone defense really flustered SIU. Strickland's a really neat story. You'll have more on him coming up tonight. You saw halftime of our game, 7 o'clock on Extra against Jamestown, which, again, it's another non-Division I, but this is the last time the Bison are going to be at home here for a couple weeks. Then they've got cross country. They go to Arkansas next week for Thanksgiving. Then it's to Montana for the Big Sky Challenge for their back home 2 Saturdays from now when they take on Northern Arizona. Right. So this is one of the last few times you're going to see them play for the next couple of weeks.
And if you don't think Jamestown wants to come in here and not win, I mean, you're crazy. They want to prove that they belong in the NSIC level. They belong in the Division II level. It's an in-state game. They looked pretty decent last year when we saw them, and now a year with some experience, and I think this could be an okay game.
Casey Brueggemann in his second year leading Jamestown. I'm intrigued to watch what Damari has done. That's a healthy Damari Wheeler-Thomas. I don't know if we can count on him shooting from outside like that, but his penetration, mid-range game, that's going to be tough to stop.
Him, and then you pair him with Andy Stefanowicz as well at the guard positions. I mean, those two are really fun to watch. And can we even really say Damari's 100% healthy with the nose situation he's got going on? And to have the performance that he did against SIU to start the game, where he was knocking down threes, he was making the hustle plays. That's a guy that they're probably going to rely on in the big moments as the year goes on.
Also, injury-wise, I know Dave told you Max Marley potentially back tonight?
Potentially, if all goes well. He was telling me on Monday that they were going to work him out and go through some testing, and then if he passes, then we could potentially see him Wednesday. Emil Skuda, another transfer, also dealing with an ankle injury. It sounds like his timeline might be a little longer.
Bison women are back in action Friday as well with Tulane after, I thought, I watched a good portion of that game Sunday against Nebraska. They hung around with the Huskers, and I know Jory's not going to be any moral victories there, but Coonan was fabulous again. And here's another really good mid-major coming in. I know they didn't play well against Gonzaga. They're going to be eager to play better against Tulane on Friday night.
It's a similar deal with the men's basketball team. They just need a game where the ball goes in the hoop and then the confidence can build from there. But you're right. I watched the highlights of the Nebraska game, and that's essentially a home game for Nebraska with how well that they travel.
Yes,
you know?
correct.
And to hold them to what they did and to make it a fairly close game was really impressive. And now Tulane coming in, that's not going to be easy by any means. But if the offense can find their gear, this could be a dangerous team.
And again, the Bison women that are heading on the road, they're going for a tournament as well, so they'll be out of town for the next couple of weeks. So this is the last time we're going to get a chance to see either one of these teams for the next little bit. All right. Back to football. Final week of the FCS regular season on Saturday. These are the standings in the Missouri Valley heading into the final week. We know the Bison are done, Sam, for the Valley Conference. They've won it. South Dakota surprisingly sits in second at 6-2. Illinois State and UND, though, can all tie for second if they win on Saturday. Illinois State has SIU. Of course, UND has the Jackrabbits. We'll get to that in a minute. My first question, though, as the amateur bracketologist you are.
I'm still learning.
How many teams out of the Missouri Valley will get the call on Sunday?
I want to say 5. I'll go with 5.
I think that's the smart money right now.
I don't think I really don't think South Dakota is going to go up to Grand Forks this week and win that game on the road. You're without your studs. You've lost 4 in a row.
Yep.
Where is the depth on South Dakota State? I think the cutoff there is at Youngstown State, and Youngstown State's a team that could go into the playoffs and make some noise as well. They're really impressive, especially down the stretch. But I'd say 5.
Okay.
Is that fair? I mean, what happened to Southern Illinois?
Yeah.
I thought they were going to be right in the fold with everything.
Just ran out of gas with them in terms of down the stretch. Eric, bring that back up just for a second, because the bottom I want to ask about. Can Murray get its first win of the season this weekend? Murray has got a matchup with Indiana State. Now, Indiana State, we know, has a win over the Jackrabbits. The game is in Terre Haute coming up on Saturday.
Indiana State, they've beaten South Dakota State. Granted, that was, I think the Bison may have gotten twice in that game. But Indiana State, for a half, played really well against North Dakota State. Yeah, and then the rain delay came out, and then it did not work. I don't know, it's sneaky, but, oh, man, I'm pulling for my guy, Jody Wright. I'll tell you that much. I hope Murray State can do something. Now, I don't know what their quarterback situation is. I think last game they played about 4 quarterbacks, and none of them were named Jim Ogle, who is their usual starter. But I don't. Did you say the game's in Terre Haute?
It's in Terre Haute.
It's a tough place to play. It's a real tough place to play. So I'll pull in for my fighting Jody Wrights down there.
Well, and if they don't, Murray has back-to-back winless seasons, which, again, you can't be surprised on that considering what they added into the league when they were brought in. All right, now here are the games coming up in the Missouri Valley on Saturday. We know full well the Bison game with St. Thomas. Youngstown State, it's a win and in for them. They're 7-4 against the Northern Iowa team we just saw. Brungards run roughshod over everybody. I expect the same to happen Saturday in Cedar Falls.
I would agree. They should be able to handle that. Doesn't matter if it's a road game or not. Youngstown State's playing some of the best football in the conference down the stretch here. And Brungard, he's... What is he, the favorite for the Walter Payton at this point?
I'd say he's got the inside track stat-wise. Yes.
It's a stats award. I know Cole Payton is having an absolutely phenomenal year, but they look at stats when it comes to these, and Brungard's up there with the best. I think Youngstown handles that easily.
If Illinois State beats Southern Illinois, they'll have 9 wins. I'm wondering if that's enough for them to get a top 8 seed. At 9-3, and you finish second in the Missouri Valley, typically that's been enough to warrant a top 8.
I would think so. And Southern Illinois, to wrap up the year, that's still an okay win.
It's a rivalry game there, too.
To put on the resume. Illinois State's looking really good. Daniel Sopkowitz is having a
dynamite year.
Really, really good year. Rittenhouse, their quarterback, is solid. I think their run game is tweaked a little bit since the last time NDSU saw them. But I would say, they should get seated in the top.
Real quick, if UND loses, are they in at 7-5?
I want to say yes, because I don't know how you let a team like that. I know the record says one thing at that point, but that's a really good football team that can make some noise. They just have not had the luck of finishing out games. Those losses had to turn to wins, then it's a no-brainer. But at this point, I don't know.
Don't forget, we're with you Saturday morning. You got to get back here from Bismarck for Bison Game Day at 10 a.m. on WDAY and the game. We hit the air 2:20. You'll see all the seniors announced, and then we play football just after 2:35, St. Thomas and NDSU. That's the BMZ for this week. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.